We're moving on to a new topic called timber frame construction. So up until now, anything we've done with walls, external walls of houses have been built with block. So our normal wall that we've talked about for the last year and a half has been a block inner leaf. You've got a cavity with our insulation inside in the cavity, and then we've got a block outer leaf. So two layers of blocks with a cavity in the middle, and that's our external cavity block wall. We've got a different type of construction, which is timber frame construction. So this is where the external leaves of the house, so all the external walls of the house are built using timber frame. So the example here, this is an Irish house that's been built with timber frame construction. So you can see the house looks exactly the same. From the outside you'd never know the difference, but the way this house is actually built is much different to our standard construction. So during the build process, this timber frame house would have looked something like this on screen now. So you can see the entire house is built out of timber. So all the external walls are built out of timber frame. I'll go through basically what the panel looks like. The roof is basically the same. There's no real difference with the roof. It's your external walls that have the big difference. So this is what our timber frame panel looks like. So our external wall done in timber. You have a timber frame panel consisting of a few different parts. Across the very top, so you've got a timber that runs right across the top here, the full length of the wall, that's called our head plate. A double head plate is where you've just got two of those timber. You've got the same running across the bottom, a timber running right across the bottom, which is called a sole plate. And then we've got our timber uprights. Here you can see them spaced out, normally spaced at 600 millimeters, so 600 millimeters between the uprights. Those are called studs. So we've got our head plate, sole plate, and we've got our timber studs. Anywhere we've got a window or a door or an opening, so where we've got any opening in the wall, we need a solid timber lintel. So you can see anywhere above the windows and the doors, you've got this solid timber section, which is a solid timber lintel. And then to make the whole thing strong and stable, we layer the outside of the panel with either plywood or OSB board. So you can see a layer of OSB board right along the panel. And then outside that we have a blue breather membrane. So you can see the panel here laid down. On top, so tacked on top of the plywood, you have this breather membrane. What this does is that it keeps the water out, so it keeps the rain and the weather out while the building is being built. And it also lets moisture pass through it, so it'll let damp air pass out through the layer, but it won't let any water in. So that is the basic parts of our timber frame panel. So this is what our timber frame house looks like from the outside. So you can see it's fully built here. You could actually live inside the house here. You've got your breather membrane that you can see outside the timber panel. Windows are put in, roof is in place. So this is our timber frame, and then we come along and we put an external skin outside. So you've got a choice. You could put an external skin of blockwork, which is common in Ireland because of our harsh weather. So a lot of wind and rain and snow and ice in Ireland. So you can put a skin of blockwork on the outside of this house, or you can put cedar cladding or some type of timber paneling on the outside. So we'll get to the blockwork first. So this is where you've got a house with the blockwork actually being built outside. So the house again fully built, and then the block layer comes along afterwards and builds a skin of blocks outside. You'll have a small cavity in between the timber frame wall and the block wall. So the inner leaf is timber frame, the inside skin is timber frame, the outer leaf is blocks. This is a different option of timber frame where you've got what's called cladding. So in other words, the timber frame on the inside is exactly the same. The only difference is that instead of putting blockwork on, you put timber boards or paneling, normally something like cedar or larch, because it won't rot or won't get attacked by insects. So we've got our external skin of timber frame in either blockwork or timber paneling. Back inside the house then, so in between the studs we have our timber frame wall. In between the studs of the timber frame we pack insulation, so thick insulation. So if your timber frame panel is maybe 150 millimeters thick, you'll have 150 millimeters of insulation. If it's 200 millimeters thick, you might have 200 millimeters of insulation. We put a service cavity inside then. So inside in the house then, so we have our service cavity. So what this means is that we have our timber frame panel, we have our insulation, we have a layer of airtight membrane. So you can see the white airtight membrane all around the inside here. So that has been tacked on and it's taped. So that lets that stops any air leaking out through the wall and keeps the house basically draft free. Then we put on our battens inside. So we've got these timber battens nailed on to the inside, and that gives us what's called our service cavity. So all of our pipework and our electrical stuff, so all of our cables are all going to run in this service cavity here. And then on top of that, we'll cover it with plasterboard. So you've got a few different layers, and what it means is that the pipework and the electrical cables, none of those will pierce out through this airtight membrane. So you've got this perfect airtight seal right around the outer skin of the house. So from the ceiling right down the walls, and then it's taped in around the windows and doors as well. It's even taped on the floor there. I don't know if you can see that bit of blue. But that is basically our timber frame panel complete.